Now, what I wanted to talk about today, go ahead, you can go ahead and turn over to Ephesians 5 while I get this thing started. I got stuck on something here when I was reading this and studying this week. And the title of this message is going to be Time is Evil. Time is Evil. You think about this when you're a kid, when you're younger, you're always in a hurry to get older. Like, I remember being like 15, 16, I just want to be older. I always I can't wait to get older. I can't wait to get older. And then it's funny that as you get older, what do most adults, you hear them all the time? Oh, time's going by too fast. Oh, it's already December. Oh, it's already this, it's already that. And it's the opposite way. We want it to slow down. No matter what the situation is, time is not our friend. Time, is not any human's friend when you think about it. Time is evil. And it's interesting that Ephesians chapter 5 says this. And what I want to talk about today, I want to talk about time. I really do. And I want to get into it in a way because the scripture really kind of stuck out at me. It's Ephesians 5. In verse 16 it says, redeeming the time, for the times are evil. Redeeming the times, for the times are evil. And it got me thinking about time. And it's interesting to know this. And I'm going to talk to you. This whole message I'm going to get into, I've got to preface with one thing. God created time. Okay, you got to understand this. God created time. In Genesis chapter 1, it states where he created time. Okay, number one. Number two, God is above time. Okay, God's not subject to time. Like, he's not out there in time and space. He operates in time and space, but he's above all of those things. Okay, you got to understand that. God is bigger and beyond time. Yet, because God placed humans in time, God subjects himself to it. And this is what you have to understand here with God. And what I want to get into today, in all seriousness, it might throw some people off. Some people might even call me heretical. But I want some things to be understood here because it's so important right now. Galatians 4 says in Galatians 4, it's 4:4, where God says, when the time had fully come, God sent his son. God actually had to wait for a time to do it. He subjected himself to time. There were certain things that needed to fall in place. There were certain things that needed to happen to get to the place where Jesus was born, where you had the first Christmas. There had to have been certain things that had to take place. And the thing is, and people say, oh, well, God just ordained it and made it and did this and that. No, God actually had to operate through men to make the things come to pass. God subjected himself to time. Every time had to be set up, had to be filled. Every little thing had to happen. And it had to take time to get to that place. And that's how it is. Like a good wine, it takes time to give it its good flavor. It takes time to make it good. Sometimes with healing, when we go through a hard time or something happens, like emotionally or whatever, it takes time to get over it. Time is something that you gotta wait. Time has to happen in a certain way. And then I started thinking about this. God is above time, yet God operates in time. But when we think about time in a lot of ways, how many of us have thought, oh, if I can go back and change this, or if I can go back and do this, if I had the opportunity to change this different thing in my life, and things would have ended up differently or whatever, a lot of, for instance, I had a guy that. Really nice guy. He's our UPS delivery guy. He's always a happy guy. He has a lot of garbage goes on, but he's just a really happy guy through everything. Really nice guy. He comes in a couple days ago and he'd won $25,000 on a dollar scratcher. $25,000. And, this is what kind of got me thinking about this because, I was like, wow, that's pretty amazing. Like, yeah, this is perfect because, he had all these things going on in his life and it was going to make everything to where next year was going to be his year because, everything was good now. And when he said it kind of hit me, and Lee, the lady I work with, she goes, well, it just was meant to be. That was just something that was meant to happen. And I said, I don't believe that. Because, you think about, well, what if it was you? Well, what if he didn't buy that ticket? Or, he even said, it was funny because I asked him, like, would you buy tickets all the time? He goes, no, not at all. He goes, that just happened to, for some reason, I had was standing there and there was a ticket. I said, hey, I'll pick one of those up. He said he rarely ever buys them, and he just happened to buy them on that day, and he got the right ticket. And you think, what if I can go back in time with the lottery numbers? Or what if I went back in time and made that one decision that would have, won me all this money or would have gotten me into the situation, would have made me all this? What if we can do that? But the funny thing is that every little decision we make every little thing that we do affects our future, to the point to where even going back, and this is why I think time travel is impossible. This is my message, the impossibility of time travel. Okay? Time travel is impossible because if you go back and one thing gets messed up, you could actually make it to where you can't go back in time. So time travel is impossible. It's silly thought. But that one thing will change everything. You guys have all seen Back to the Future, right? Where our families were pretty fanatical about Back to the Future. It's an amazing movie. It's an amazing piece of American literature. No, but, every little thing, he goes back and he changes one little thing, and everything works out different. Even to the point to where he has a whole different girlfriend in the second movie. I mean, it's amazing. If you watch the movie, you get the inside joke. But anyways, but the crazy thought about it, and this is what I'm getting down to. Late at work, she says, well, it just was meant to be. This guy was supposed to have this. And I said, no, I don't really believe that. Because I think that things that happen to us, and a lot of times there's a quote that I found, actually, I think it's actually even Nietzsche that said this. He said, the weak-hearted blame things on destiny, or blame things on, just the way it was meant to be. And I think in a lot of ways it's true, because we don't like the responsibility of believing that it's up to us how our future ends up. This is an amazing thought, and you got to follow me all the way through here, okay? God says to redeem the time. That word redeem, you know what it means in the Greek? It means to buy it, to use it, to do something with it. I think the New American Standard, or the NIV, I think in the NIV that says it says make the most of it. Make the most of it. Do something with it. Because the times are evil. That this thing that we have to operate in is not good for us. It doesn't work for us. If we just let it go by, it's not going to make something wonderful. How many people do you hear, and I don't know, maybe some of us are this way, that we're sitting around waiting for something good to happen? Oh, something's going to happen. Everything's going to work out. And we just sit here and wait. It's like, well, like the lady, well, maybe I'll win the lottery. Do you play it? I mean, having good gosh. I mean, the lottery, I think I've told you the statistics before. I mean, you have more of an opportunity to die from eating a peanut butter and jelly sandwich than you do from winning the lottery. That's statistically. Yeah, it's statistically more probable that you get hit on the head with a falling meteorite than it is for you to actually win the lottery. I mean, it's just almost impossibility. But the thing is, people, they wait. They think something's going to happen. And they think that when things happen, they're just supposed to happen that way. And I don't believe that. So in my points here in my message, because I want to do this in a nice, organized way, I call this heretical point number 1. This is called the sovereignty of God. And I've mentioned this before, and I want to talk to you about this. That God just does things for a certain way, and things just work out because God just controls all these things. And that is not true. And I honestly don't think it's a biblical idea at all. I believe that, yes, God understands our place in time. And so God has plans. God has a destiny for each one of us. God has dreams. God has desires. And God has certain things that are supposed to work out. God has a perfect person for you to spend the rest of your life with. God has a perfect, job or working situation that He wants you to do. God has a ministry or, a church or something that you're supposed to be involved in. God has all of those things lined up for you. And they're always His absolute best. And when you're involved in those things, your life is blessed. But that doesn't mean that you have to do it. That doesn't mean that you're just going to fall into it. I think sometimes we fall into things because God just, happens to say, all right, you keep messing up, eventually you're going to get to what I want you to do. But that's not God's plan. That's not God's purpose. There was a quote from a guy named Henley. He was a British philosopher. He said, I am the master of my fate, and I am the captain of my soul. Interestingly enough, I found out this is a pretty popular pendant, because when I looked it up online, there was all these advertisements for buying this silver pendant necklace or something. Like, I don't know. Anyways, it must be a popular quote. But it's interesting, because he says, I'm the master of my fate, I'm the captain of my soul. A lot of times, we don't like to deal with the responsibility of knowing that we have control of our destiny. We like leaving it into the hands of some unknown force that things are just going to work out. God cannot force you to have what He has for you. He can't.